Hey everyone, this is the Black Manga Critic, and I'm here with a review of Dragon Ball Super episode 108. Now, I haven't checked any of the other reviews for Dragon Ball Super 108 or anything like that. That's not something that I normally do. I just kind of come into my reviews, bring my thoughts in, see what you guys think about it, and that's it. So basically, one thing I want to talk about with Dragon Ball Super, and I'm only going to talk about one thing because I don't think there's much else to talk about. I think everything that needs to be said about the sort of larger, bigger picture in terms of how the story is going has kind of already been said. It's kind of obvious. But when it comes to Frieza, I want to talk about Frieza. This video is going to be tailored to talking about what happened in this episode, why this episode could have been great, and basically why it wasn't great because of the fact that they didn't, implement what could have been great. So basically, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, comment, comment in the comment section, find me on Twitter, the deal. Like for YouTubers, blah, blah, blah. But, you don't have to. Like, I basically do this videos just, put out videos and to talk to you guys and everyone out there. But let's get into Dragon Ball Super episode 108. So basically, when we're talking about Dragon Ball Super episode 108, like I said, we got to talk about Frieza. And the issue that I have with what this episode did was they sort of copped out it a little bit in a way that really sort of bothered me. One, because it didn't seem particularly useful, right? Like, there's a way in which, Frieza, right, sort of mid-fight sets up a plan with Gohan. They kind of, do that sort of warrior thing where they speak with their fist or whatever, yada, 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 right? But I think what really got to me about that was just how kind of ridiculous it was. It just seemed kind of out of character for Frieza. I don't know what Frieza's plan is, but I guess Frieza wants to keep more of Universe 7 alive so that he has more fighters or whatever, to sort of take out other fighters. But even then, I think it was kind of ridiculous because I think he understands that hey, if Vegeta's still around and Goku's still around, there are enough fighters in Universe 7 still around. And to say okay, he doesn't need Gohan, right? Why would he ever save a Saiyan? It's just something that kind of bothers me. What how does that even help him go about his plan of getting rid of Beerus or reviving himself or any of that other nonsense? How does that help him at all? To keep Gohan on the field? I don't see it. Maybe someone can explain it to me. If so, great. But I don't see how that helps his plan. I don't see how one it helps him. In terms of his sort of role and his desires in terms of the Dragon Ball Super universe, right, and the storyline or whatever. But two, I don't understand how this makes him a better sort of character, right? And look, again, I've said this in the past. I think Dragon Ball Super, if you were coming into Dragon Ball Super expecting particular things in terms of character development, or good character development or metaphor content or figurative deep figurative language or whatever, you're not gonna get that. But there is a way in which at the very least they just needed to keep Frieza in character, right? That's not a difficult thing to do when you have all of the Frieza arc, all of that stuff, right? It's not a difficult thing to maintain Frieza's character. And this doesn't really maintain Frieza's character because it seems kind of odd. It's this is too calculating. You know what I mean? Frieza wasn't ever particularly calculating, I think, in a way. He's been very much so sadistic. And if he does something, it's usually to further his penchant for sadism and stuff like that, and his desire to be sadistic. But this doesn't do much of that. It's just kind of weird. It's just why save Gohan? If anything, he should have just kicked Gohan. Should have just beat the crap out of Gohan and kicked his ass out of the ring. And then no one would have really. I don't think anyone would have necessarily even fought for Gohan. Maybe Piccolo would have, but even then, Piccolo can't fucking beat Golden Frieza. So I think Piccolo's smart enough to know that in that instance, if Frieza did kick out Gohan out of the ring, he wouldn't do shit because he'd end up getting his ass whooped. But Goku and Vegeta don't seem to be people that would fight for someone like Gohan. It's weird. There's a feeling that I get that Goku would much rather fight for Master Roshi than for Gohan in this particular situation, right? Mostly because Master Roshi's old, right, and not as strong. So I think Goku would sort of think Gohan can defend himself, he'll be fine and everything like that, right? So I think there's a way in which Frieza kicking out Gohan would be just fine. It would make total sense in terms of Frieza, his character, what he's done in the past. acts that he's done in the past, right? Stuff like that. So I didn't really understand why they took that route. I guess like that's sort of like the biggest thing, that I kind of wanted to talk about in terms of the episode and Frieza and why I felt that like this episode could have been great. Because I think that if Frieza just kicked the shit out of Gohan and worked with Frost and kicked his ass out, that would have been far more interesting, and it would have made more sense in terms of Frieza's character and like the sort of track record that Frieza does have, right? And also like it just like what also seemed kind of weird like in terms of like just sort of the whole plan and everything like that. There was a weird way in which like it almost seemed as if Frieza and Gohan were enacting this plan. At least on Frieza's side, so that Frieza could like take out Frost and like trick him and everything like that. But the whole process of that didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't seem particularly smart. And that's something that's like really very much so out of Frieza's sort of character. Like Frieza's not even like a particularly like super clever like villain or anything like that. He's a sadistic villain, but sadistic does not equate to cleverness. You know what I mean? So that's something that like bothered me. It was like if you're gonna do this plan, and Frost has this little sort of like death beam kind of thing at the ready. Frost isn't even particularly strong. So why do we care that Frost has like a sort of like, his sort of trigger finger, like, right, no pun intended, but like, why does he have like his sort of like trigger finger, like, up and ready to shoot Frieza or Gohan or the Yardratian or whatever, when Frost isn't even particularly strong and Frieza made quick work of him. Like when we saw Frieza fight Frost, he made quick work of Frost. So it just seems kind of odd that like Frost would believe that he could like even do much to Frieza or Gohan, or that Frieza felt like he had to enact this like really ridiculous kind of bogus plan to trick Frost for whatever reason. It just seemed really stupid. But that's just me, like So I'm gonna end the review there. Like I said, like I really just wanted to talk about Frieza and that whole sort of like ridiculous plan that was set up and the sort of unnecessary nature of it. Like the Yardratian was like, okay, like, he's a Yardratian, we get it, like, that's a little bit of like deep, DB, lore, but I don't, it's whatever, who cares? Like, he got made quick work of pretty quickly too, it's just like, whatever. So, like I said, the episode could have been good, but it wasn't because a lot of it just seemed really ridiculous. The writing seemed kind of like out of whack. It didn't seem like the writers really understood Frieza as a character. Maybe I don't understand Frieza as a character. If in any way like you think that I'm wrong and that I'm not seeing things correctly, then feel free to comment in the comment section below, because I'm always up for discussion in that sense. Like I'm not someone that's going to be like, oh, this is how I think, and I'm always going to think this way, and I'm going to be like a terrible person. Like no, feel free to talk to me. Feel free to find me in the comment section. Feel free to find me on Twitter. Feel free to email me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my review of Dragon Ball Super episode 108. I'm looking forward to, 109. That should be interesting. And yeah, I'm the Black Manga Critic, and I'm out.